UNESCO World Heritage Site, going across to Lake Atitlan, where they've got colourful markets and indigenous culture there, going across to the Tikal ruins of Guatemala for the Maya culture, and then on to San Ignacio in Belize, which is a bit of adventure with cave tubing, and then on for a few days of relaxation on something like Ambergris Key. Another example would be a single trip to Costa Rica, starting off in San Jose, the capital, going over to Sarapiquí and Tortuguero on the Caribbean coast for wildlife, then over to Arenal, which is a volcano which has been continually erupting since 1968, and you can see the lava flows particularly at night. Then on to the Monteverde cloud forest, and then perhaps a few days of beach and relaxation at Manuel Antonio.
So I'm just trying to picture all that in my head as you're describing it. So that's my list is just getting longer and longer. But
oh, well, I'm sorry about that.
If you had 10 days, which of your trips would you choose and why?
Very difficult question. I'm passionate about colonial history and indigenous culture and colourful markets and ancient ruins, but I'm not really a beach person. Mm-hmm. So for me, something like Guatemala is particularly good, or Peru.
Peru, okay. For a more relaxing holiday, which tour would you recommend for a honeymoon?
Mexico is very popular for honeymoons, following a trip from Mexico City across to Oaxaca, Spanish colonial city, onto Palenque for a bit of the introduction into the Mayan ruins, and then on for rest and relaxation down at the Riviera Maya. Costa Rica is probably the most popular country for honeymoons in Central America. In South America, it has to be Brazil or Peru.
Hello, it's Roy. Yeah, we're on the ferry. We should be in Spain tomorrow afternoon.
Well, be careful. Lots of crooks on the roads out here.
Crooks? You know where I grew up.
This is different. They target British registered vehicles.
Yeah, they used to do that round my way.
I'm serious. They'll tell you there's something wrong with your car, so you pull over, then they rob you. Or they distract you at a motorway stop. They target hire cars, too.
Hire cars?
Yeah, well, they're driven by tourists.
Oh, OK, I'll watch out.
Good. So, looking forward to the drive down?
Yeah, well, I was.
Thieves in Spain have been targeting hire cars and UK-registered vehicles, so be extra careful on the roads. For details, visit gov.uk and search for Living in Spain.
You're listening to The Travel Show with John Guinn on ukhealthradio.com. However, at the moment, I'm still continuing my conversation with David Gilmore. We've covered the highlights of Central America, how to get there, and visas and jabs and stuff. We're now moving further south, and we're going to start looking at South America. And the first country I wanted to know about was Colombia. And I'm sure when you hear the word Colombia, something comes into your head. But obviously there's far more to the place than what you're probably thinking about. And David's going to start going through one or two of them.
Well, Bogota itself is the capital. It's a mix of old and new, trendy and traditional. Got a good range of colonial mansions, churches, and impressive public buildings. The Gold Museum there is particularly notable. An extraordinary place to visit in Colombia is a church built within a salt mine at Zipaquirá. It's about 2 hours from Bogota, and it's rightly regarded, I suppose, as one of the marvels of Colombia. And we usually stop there on the way to a fantastic colonial city called Villa de Leyva. Going up to the north, you've got a place called Tayrona National Park, which is covered by virgin tropical forest, home to a fantastic array of wildlife. I think it's got over 200 species of birds, various types of monkey, sloths, and goodness knows how many types of reptiles. There are also jungle trails for wildlife spotting and paths that link the various palm-fringed beaches. But the jewel, if you like, in the Colombian crown has to be Cartagena. It's a walled city which was used by the Spanish to ship gold, silver, and their goods back to Spain, and consequently became the richest city in the Americas. But where there's gold, there are pirates, and Cartagena was frequently targeted by the foreign powers, including the French, Dutch, and British. In the 18th century, it was defended by attack from the British under a chap called Admiral Vernon. In charge of the defence of Cartagena was a Basque admiral. He's one of my great heroes. He's called Blas de Leso. He had one eye, one arm, and one leg, and he successfully defended Cartagena from attack by Admiral Vernon.
Was his nickname Lucky? With only one eye, one arm, one leg?
Well, in fact, he was a veteran of 23 different campaigns. He lost his leg, I think, in Malaga, and I think he lost his arm, or it might have been his eye, at Gibraltar when Spain lost Gibraltar to the British.
Yes, he's definitely a hard man, I think.
I mean, it was an extraordinary occasion. In that battle, in fact, Admiral Vernon had something like 28,000 men and 186 boats. It was the biggest naval deployment of its era, and was only superseded by D-Day 200 years later. Blas de Leso had something like 3,000 men under his command and 6 boats.
Wow. It's difficult to imagine that, isn't it?
Quite extraordinary. The first thing he did, actually, was to sink his own boats in the harbour. The reason for that is that stopped the British from being able to approach.
Yeah, I think I would have been running, not too busy thinking about what I'm going to do with the boats. I'd just be gone, be in the jungle hiding somewhere, but that's just me.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah. Moving on to a different country, is it easy to combine Angel Falls in Venezuela with a beach holiday?
It's actually probably much easier than you might think. The archipelago of Los Roques consists of about 300 islands and make for a fantastic beach holiday. And from there, you can fly to Caracas and then over the Angel Falls as a day trip.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to stay longer, then it's always a good idea to stay at a lodge in Canaima National Park for a day or two, which is lovely.
Now, Machu Picchu, I think I got that right. Who knows? I've heard that there's a lot of walking and using bushes as toilets when you go and see it. Is that true?
Well, Machu Picchu is arguably the most important archaeological site in the whole of the Americas.
Mm-hmm.
What you're referring to is the Inca Trail, which is a 4-day, 3-night hike of 26 miles in the Andes. So 3 nights or possibly 4 nights camping. Over the last few years, they have improved the facilities and the infrastructure so that there are now new flushing lavatories along the way and at all the major campsites. That's helped to improve the sanitary conditions enormously, although it has to be said that conditions are still not quite perfect. But in order to get to Machu Picchu, you don't have to hike the Inca Trail. There are trains from Cusco and from the Sacred Valley of the Incas. There's also a top-end luxury train called the Hiram Bingham Service, which was named after the archaeologist who rediscovered Machu Picchu in 1911. I've been lucky enough to have been to Machu Picchu, I think, 12 times in the last 28 years. I've done the Inca Trail on various occasions. I've taken the train, and however way you get there, it's always great fun.
My wife's the sort of person who gets upset there's not a minibar, so I don't think we'll be doing the trail, we'll be doing it by train.
Absolutely. My days, I think, of walking Inca Trail are probably over. Yeah, I'm much more inclined, if I can, to take the luxury train nowadays.
Is there anything else to do in Peru?
Well, we just mentioned Cusco, which was the capital of the Inca Empire. It's built in the Spanish colonial style upon Inca walls and foundations. Cusco's full of bars and restaurants and clubs and craft shops and cafes, and it's a fantastic place to spend a few days acclimatizing to the altitude. You're at 3,200 meters above sea level. Incidentally, in the cathedral there, they've got a painting of the Last Supper depicting Christ and his disciples tucking into that well-known Peruvian delicacy of guinea pig. Other sites in Peru, we would recommend the markets and the villages of the Sacred Valley of the Incas, Lake Titicaca, the Nazca Lines. We have those funny drawings in the desert. The Amazon rainforest, 2/3 of Peru is actually in the Amazon basin, and travelers often like to spend 3 or 4 days at a jungle lodge, using the lodge as a base from which to explore the surrounding rainforest. Arequipa is another attractive colonial city and is the gateway to the Colca Canyon, which has got fantastic Inca terracing and is known for sightings of condors. In the north of Peru, there have been some important archaeological discoveries in the last few years, and this area is really beginning to open up to visitors. So it makes, again, for a very interesting experience.
You can follow me on Twitter @holiday_hut. If you've recently visited Central or South America, please do share your experiences at facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. Put up some of your photos, give us some hints and tips about what you saw and where to go, or what to avoid. facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. One of the things when you think about South America, well, with me in particular, is the experience that Top Gear had recently when they were travelling between Chile and Argentina. And I wanted to know whether the antics of the Top Gear TV show has made it difficult for British travellers in Argentina. And also, it's part of my favourite part of the world, which I haven't been to yet, is Patagonia. The pictures I've seen, the places looks like just stunning. See, I'm lost for words, it's that stunning. And there's one or two things I like to do when I go down there too, because I've seen people going whale watching, but in these tiny little boats and the whales bob up next to them, it just seems a magical experience, of course, as long as we're not bothering the whales. So I asked David about Patagonia, and of course I did mention about the Top Gear crew as well.
Well, Patagonia is absolutely vast, and it straddles both sides of the Andes for 1,000 miles. In the northern part of Patagonia, you can cross over from the Chilean Lake District at Puerto Montt to Bariloche in Argentina, or vice versa, in a trip that goes bus, which can be done in a day, but we really recommend that you do it over a couple of days to savour the scenery and enjoy the experience. In the south, from Torres del Paine National Park in southern Chile, you can cross over to southern Argentina to visit the Perito Moreno Glacier, where it's wonderful to do some walking on the glacier with crampons. The guide normally takes a bottle of whiskey, so 30-year-old whiskey and 400-year-old ice. Best way to see Perito Moreno. Also, there are cruises from Punta Arenas around to Ushuaia, that's from Chile into Argentina, going through the Beagle Channel and the Magellan Straits. Amazing wildlife, penguin spotting, and bird life. On the whole, you mentioned Top Gear, on the whole, relations between the UK and Argentina have been very good, and British travellers are generally welcomed. But most visitors won't be waving a Union flag and talking about the Falkland Islands. If they do, that's bound to upset a few.
You cover the whole of South America, I think. Can you give us a brief overview of some of the tours you do there?
Well, yes, indeed. We cover the whole of Latin America. We work with partners in each country in Latin America to represent us, and they've got a veritable army of local guides and drivers to look after our passengers, meeting people at airports, taking them on city tours, and so on. And so, yes, we cover the whole gamut, from Mexico down to Argentina, Chile, and even, as I said, down to Antarctica, also to the Falkland Islands.
I know somebody quite well who's celebrating his silver wedding anniversary this September. Which tour would you recommend for him to mark the occasion? Silver anniversaries are very important, and yes, something very special to mark that. One, if you'd asked me that 15 years ago, I probably would have said a trip on Concorde. Today, perhaps the Galapagos Islands would be of interest, as that's very much a journey of a lifetime. But I think you said September, and I'm afraid that September and October is not ideal because there's a sea mist over the Galapagos Islands at that time of the year. The best time for the Galapagos would be December to March. So how about a trip combining Argentina with Brazil, starting off in Buenos Aires, going up to the Iguazu Falls, which are on the border with Argentina, Brazil, and Paraguay, and then going across to Rio de Janeiro. And if they've got a little bit more time, perhaps spend a few days on a beach at the end. Otherwise, if they're feeling a bit more adventurous, our Peru, Bolivia, and Chile tour would combine Machu Picchu, Lake Titicaca, and the extraordinary salt flats of Uyuni with the Atacama Desert. The salt flats are 10,000 square kilometers of salt, and they're a stunning sight. And the Atacama Desert in northern Chile has got flamingos, amazing lakes, and wonderful wildlife.
if they delay the celebrations until